experience a combination of both masculine and feminine energies coming up. For those of you who are quite feminine already, you will find that you start to receive a greater amount of masculine energy coming through. And the reason for this is that your divine sort of feminine needs to be balanced with the masculine to create the whole, basically. And this will allow you to come back into the inner child. So the inner child, I think, has been very damaged through the collective consciousness, unfortunately, as a result of these processes that occurred. And we're now being asked to return to our true self, or our inner sort of self, if that makes sense. So what I got was that this channeled message will probably resonate with people who identify as having been witches in past lives, or at least sort of people who identify as being empathic. Even if you're not fully aware of your past lives and things like that, you could have had sort of one-off kind of experiences, and so this might resonate in certain ways. But really it's that for the majority of the feminine, the shadow aspects are starting to come up, to be cleared and transmuted and balanced. Okay, so part of this process is moving from the maiden, which I guess in sort of witchcraft and things like that refers to the sort of younger kind of woman, I guess. There's a transition between the sort of the maiden who's still coming into her self-confidence, coming into her self-esteem, coming into her sense of self, and the crone, who is, you know, usually identifies as an older woman, sort of maybe 50 plus onwards. This doesn't always have to be the case. When people come into their maiden and when they come into their crone sort of aspects of themselves, depends on the individual and where they're at on their conscious sort of evolution. And that's completely fine. Whenever you move or switch is completely fine. There's no right or wrong. Basically, by going through this transformation, you begin to walk along a path that other women have walked before you. Not everybody will go through this conscious evolution in this lifetime. Typically it involves a certain level of self-awareness, a willingness as well to go within, because this path can be really lonely sometimes. I think that this is what you would kind of refer to as the lone wolf kind of path. It requires you to go deeply within yourself, to remove yourself from societal constructs, to remove yourself from group consciousness, and to basically to go within yourself, to do some really deep self kind of analysis, really. It requires you to remove old patterns, to address old sort of issues that you might have in relation to your expression of your power. And basically it's just a long period of being kind of alone and having to do a lot of deep self-reflection, a lot of questioning your motivations, questioning your actions, questioning your behaviors, and all of those sorts of things. So what I was being told is that during this process, and I feel like this collective will know if this applies to them, you'll feel this deep inner calling basically to start going within. I just want you to know that your guides, your angels, your spirit team are all around you as you go through this process. As you go through this process of transmuting energies, as you go through this process of removing layers of yourself, just old aspects of yourself basically. So you're basically transmuting old energies that you've probably brought in from past lives. Some of it may be from this lifetime as well, but basically we're removing the masks during this process. So what I was being told is that we're moving into a new era of spirituality, and you are helping to heal issues in relation to the feminine, both forwards and backwards in time. So this is strengthening transgenerational healing, and to do this you basically need to integrate the shadow side. All the aspects we've been pushed into unconsciously as a result of being oppressed by the masculine kind of consciousness. This isn't necessarily directed as a sort of like male hating in that sort of sense. It's actually just more of a sort of, I guess, just an energy that's kind of been around for a really long time. So during this time, you might find that you have had your anger repressed, you've had your sexuality repressed, and all of that sort of stuff, I guess. But unfortunately, all of these aspects of power, sexuality, influence, and things like that are actually really important. They're important to both males and females. So the woman who enters the crone aspects will no longer fear this or perceive herself to be flawed, I guess, or unacceptable as well, I guess. There's a real coming into self. There's a real being grounded and centered within your sense of identity, a sense of feeling a greater sense of purpose, of knowing who you are on a really deep level. Unfortunately, you will probably find that this new level of authenticity starts to, I guess, threaten people. So you may find that you're really needing to gravitate away from areas where, if you're in areas where people are feeling threatened, these could be jobs, this could be friendships, it could be relationships. It can happen on all levels, but you probably really need to move away from those types of environments in accordance with your kind of life purpose, because you will start to mirror at people their own lack of authenticity, and this will make them uncomfortable with themselves. So for a lot of people who are very unconscious of this process, you will find that there's a lot of projections going on during this time. You will find that they can become sort of, I know for groups of women, it can involve sort of becoming sort of very sort of bitchy and kind of exclusive of you. They'll be very threatened of your sort of experience, basically who you are, even your sort of like your glow as a person. They will feel threatened by, because it's something that they at this stage can't embody within themselves. And it's also an aspect of the repressed sort of masculine, I guess, within them that feels like they need to kind of knock down anyone that's sort of beginning to come into their feminine essence. But thankfully, as a result of these changes that you go through, you will find that you begin to find people who match your frequency. You will begin to climb into your sense of power. When you live in authenticity, both inwardly and outwardly, your outer environment will begin to mirror your own self-worth. So you'll suddenly find that your life kind of takes off. You'll find that you find friends that you really connect with because you're being authentic and you're no longer masked. You'll find that sort of jobs fall into place because you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. You'll also just find that circumstances in your life suddenly sort of shift and change because the life that you're living is now authentic and the universe is responding to that authenticity. Individuation is lonely because it requires you to go within. It asks you to validate yourself and not to seek that validation from the world outside of yourself. And this is what sovereignty is. Practice listening to your intuition to help guide you through this process. The more you honor it, the stronger it gets. It's like a muscle. Needs to be repetitively used for it to grow. So I've definitely found this in my own life as I've begun to trust my intuition and gut feelings a lot more. I have definitely noticed an increase in the strength of my intuition coming through. I sense things a lot more strongly now, and I've learned to always follow that. So that might mean if I'm in a job that no longer resonates with me, then I'll basically start to let that job go. I mean, it might take a bit of time to sort of organize everything, but I will start to drop that sort of stuff. Same goes for friendships and things like that. If I feel like I'm no longer resonating with certain people in my life, then those friendships I will sort of slowly start to let go of, because it's no longer, those energies are no longer a reflection basically of who I am. So basically, the reason you need to come into the authenticity is so that you can remember your essence. You're here for a reason. Your guides have asked you and you have agreed to come here for a particular reason. And we need you to be able to fulfill your purpose while you're here on earth now. It's really important. You matter and your life purpose matters. It matters for the whole collective consciousness. This is your journey back to self. Your change, although you don't see it right now, will be a catalyst for others. It'll be a catalyst for other women who feel this calling but are scared to take the risk. You need to be this change for them. We need you. All right, that's the end of the message. Thank you for listening. If you resonate with any of these messages, please leave your thoughts, feelings, ideas down in the comments section, and I hope to hear from you next time. All right, bye for now.